Personal terms between Mason Mount and Manchester United are apparently agreed. The Chelsea midfielders want Manchester United and only Manchester United because, hey, who wants to go to Liverpool and challenge for the 7-Up trophy every season, right? So, what kind of player is Mason Mount and what is he going to bring to Manchester United? Let's analyze. Alright, so before we start analyzing actual footage, as we usually do here on the Scarlet Report, let's have a brief statistical analysis. So basically, I have thought of what are the actual 4 statistics that define a great attacking midfielder. So for me, a great attacking midfielder has to be creative, thus key passes per 90, has to also contribute with goals throughout the seasons, goals from midfield. Therefore, I included shots per 90, which is an indication of how trigger happy a player is. Then of course there is successful take-ons per 90, which shows how many successful dribbles every game does this player perform. It's very important for an attacking midfielder in order for them to be able to beat the press as well as beat players and create chances. And then of course tackles in the attacking third, because it shows how aggressive they are in the press, how willing they are to disrupt the opposition's build-up play, etc. And here I do have 3 maps for you. The first one in green is Mason Mount, not from this season but from last season. This season Chelsea has been horrendous, so of course it's not going to be an indication of what he can truly bring to Manchester United. This is from last season under the Thomas Tuchel, where Mount was their best player. 11 goals and 10 assists in the league, their best goal scorer and their best assist provider. That was a very good season from Mason Mount. Bruno Fernandes from this season, and then this is the best of the league. So obviously out of the statistics that I have here, for example, let's say key passes, Kevin De Bruyne is the best in the league, so I based it on him. For example, shots per 90, James Maddison from Leicester was actually the best one in the league. So basically, if you took the best players in each of these stats in the Premier League and you merged them and created some sort of super player, super attacking midfielder, this is what his chart is gonna look like. First thing is that, as we can see, Bruno's chart is actually not that different from the best of the league chart. Again, highlighting what a great player he is and how vital he is to our plans. And then of course there is Mason Mount, whose chart is not actually that dissimilar to that of Bruno. The only key difference right here, actually if you combine them together, you notice that Mason Mount over here has less key passes than Bruno Fernandes, so he's less of a creator. However, as you can see, Mason Mount also shoots per 90 a little more than Bruno Fernandes does. So basically what this shows is that Mount could actually potentially contribute more goals throughout a season than Bruno does for Manchester United, but Bruno is a little superior when it comes to creativity, though Mason Mount at 2.21 key passes per 90, that's not too shabby. That's actually pretty good. Now what this shows us as well, when I look at it, when I visualize it this way, what I see is that Manchester United, Erik Ten Hag and John Murtho, their plan with the Mason Mount transfer is that they want to clone Bruno Fernandes. That's what they want to do. Basically, what it means is that they analyzed our performance this season and over the past few seasons, and they realized that when we play with Bruno Fernandes, we are much better, way better than when we play without Bruno Fernandes. So you cannot really afford to put all your eggs in the Bruno Fernandes basket. Next season, based on the season he's had, there is a high chance, a high potential that we may witness a Bruno Fernandes burnout next season. After all, he's only human, and it's not something that would be uncharacteristic of players at this level, okay? So this is why they're bringing in Mason Mount. That means if for some reason, fatigue or suspension or injury or just loss of form, we lose Bruno Fernandes' impact next season, someone like Mount could potentially provide the same qualities that Bruno provides in that attacking midfield position. And just like how when you look for an Airbnb for your trip to, I don't know, Lima, Peru, for example, you go through Airbnb and you select certain filters. Well, the same thing Manchester United are doing right now with their player database. Basically, they're including key pass and shot per 90 and successful take-on stats like that, including maybe other metrics, much more advanced metrics than the ones I'm showing you here, in order to identify a pool of, let's say, 10 to 20 players who fit the bill. And the fact that they're moving for Mason Mount, it means that he is the best option that Manchester United has out of the available midfielders. And I'm really excited about this. So let's not talk too much about this. Let's move on to some analysis of actual footage. Alright, so let's start our video analysis. In this sequence, in the game against Wolves this season, As you can see, Mason Mount over here carrying the ball. This sequence really showcases his ability as a creator and as a number 10 playmaker in this area 14, this whole area over here. So obviously here he's linking up with Pulisic on the left. What I like about this, that Mason Mount is marked in this half space over here, and then look at what he's gonna do. Look, he peels off, and then now his marker, the Wolves player, is completely taken out, just as Pulisic is cut in on his right foot. And then now Mount, look at how much space he has. Great space finder play by him. Just by peeling off, that's it. He puts himself in a position to receive the ball. He receives the ball, turns. Pulisic is moving into this space between the right back and the right-sided center back. And then Mount, this is really hard to execute, and yet he finds Pulisic. And then great goal for Chelsea. Beautiful goal by Mount, beautiful goal by Pulisic, but it was created by Mount's ability to peel off his marker and create space for himself so he can receive the ball. Now let's look at the next sequence. Now this sequence really showcases his technique. Technique is extremely important for an attacking midfielder. My countrymate right here, Hakim Ziyech, beautiful pass, floating ball towards Mason Mount, and then Mason Mount, look at this Mason Mount or Van Basten, I don't know, beautiful placed volley. These volleys are so hard to execute, and yet from Mount, look, he does it effortlessly. Great technical player as well. Now this sequence right here again shows his ability to find space again, and in this sequence he's really similar to the way Bruno Fernandes moves. Now Mason Mount over here, look how he anticipates the situation in order for him to go and exploit this space so he can provide an assist. So the ball is going toward, look, he moves way faster than everyone else. He receives the ball. Now, that's it. It's just a formality right now before he finds a player. And he's able to pick out the right player, because out of these three players, the right player is, of course, Hakim Ziyech, who's coming unmarked into the penalty spot over here. And then Mason Mount finds him. Hakim Ziyech never had such an easy finish to do in his whole career. Beautiful Chelsea goal. Again, Mason Mount made that goal happen with his smart movement. Now this right here, this again is the flip side to the goal we just watched, which is, let's see how Mason Mount creates space for himself and also how he's composed in front of goal, which allows him to score a lot of goals. So again, Chelsea in the same area on the left-hand side, Mason Mount over here. What I like about him is that he's a ghost. He moves seamlessly between spaces without really attracting too much attention on himself. He's able to find space and then murder you. He's like a silent assassin. Look what he's doing over here. He's moving. Nobody from Norwich is aware of the threat. Nobody is marking him. And then he ends up receiving the ball. And what I like about this, look what he does, that a little feint. And then now he's able to control the ball, taking the Norwich defender out of the play. And here there is only one outcome. Beautiful finish, smashes it into the top corner. That's a beautiful goal. Beautiful, beautiful goal. And only a few select classy players can score such goals like such as this one in the top flight. Really, it's really hard to pull off. It looks easy, but it's hard to pull off, okay? Now let's look at this goal. This goal is interesting, not necessarily because it's a beautiful goal, but because it shows Mason Mount's, of course, playmaking ability, but also his tenacity. He's known as a hard worker, as a fighter, as a presser, and then we're gonna see that showcased in this sequence right here. So a corner that Chelsea loses. Mason Mount is coming over here. He keeps the ball in play for Chelsea. Chalobah gets the ball, and then he keeps on moving again behind the defense into those half spaces. He really loves making runs that exploit these areas right here. And in modern football, these areas right here are vital. You have to learn how to defend them. And in the attacking phase, you have to learn how to exploit them. And here he does. The cross doesn't come too much. It doesn't matter. The ball is cleared. And then now, this is what I like about him. He's fighting again. Tenacious, industrious, keeps the ball alive for Chelsea. And then now, something that you are not going to see because of the cropping of the video. But what Mount is going to do, and maybe you can see it here. Look at Mount. You see, he raises his hand because he's signaling to his teammates, guys, a cross is coming your way. Position yourselves, be ready, brace yourselves. And then that's exactly what he's gonna do. He's gonna deliver, beautiful cross, and then Kai Havertz, beautiful floating looped header, beautiful goal for Chelsea. And then again, following that same theme of Mason Mount, the hard worker, the tackler, the tenacious, industrious player. This is last season from the Champions League tie against Real Madrid, a tie that Chelsea won 3-2. at the Bernabeu. Of course, it was not enough for them to qualify, and Mason Mount was key in this game because he provided an assist from a corner, he scored a beautiful goal, and then their third goal, the Marcos Alonso goal, was of course also created by Mason Mount because of his hard work. Look at this. Mason Mount over here, press in, looking for the right time, close in the passing lanes over here, and then checkmate. That's it. Chelsea wins the ball, they can counter-attack. Real Madrid are ill-prepared, they cannot deal with it because they were not expecting to lose the ball in that area. Marcos Alonso gets the ball, and then he ends up scoring it. Now, this goal is pretty good because Mason Mount in this game, Chelsea played the 4-3-3 formation, and Mason Mount played on the left-hand side of their attacking trident. Basically, he played in the Marcus Rashford position for us at Manchester United, and here he's going to show his versatility and the fact that he has such a diverse skill set, right? So what he does here, look, okay, so now he's making a move over here in that left inside forward position. He's waiting for, look, he's moving closer. Again, seamlessly, nobody's tracking his run. And then look at that. He makes the run because he knows the ball is coming. Great burst of pace. Now he's in a position to finish. And then beautiful finish against Thibaut Courtois, one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Beautiful goal again by Mason Mount. So great player, great player, but also an extremely versatile player. How does he fit in at Manchester United? Let's go to the tactical board to see how he fits in. All right, so now let's see how Mason Mount can actually be used tactically by Erik Ten Hag next season if he joins us. So this is, of course, our standard configuration, the way we've been playing most of our games this season in a 4-2-3-1 shape. I've added Kane here because, you know, why not? You know, you just got to think positive. And then Christian Eriksen, though, I think it's my personal opinion that if we get the Qatari ownership, we're also going to go for another midfielder. Sabitzer is not staying. One of McTominay, potentially Fred, is going to get sold. Donny van de Beek, he's recovering from an injury. He hasn't been reliable. I don't think that Erik Ten Hag will want to go, will want to start next season with just the current midfielders that we have plus Mason Mount. But anyway, let's just have Eriksen in that spot. But anyway, this could be Eriksen or another number 8 that we buy later in the summer. So in this configuration right here, I think Mason Mount starts on the bench because I think that using Mason Mount, as some people have theorized, in the Eriksen spot, it just doesn't get the best out of Mason Mount as far as a 4-2-3-1 system is concerned. And of course, Bruno has been our best player for the past few seasons, so you cannot expect Mount to just come in and take his spot. And I'm sure that Erik Ten Hag is going to favor Rashford and Anthony, you know, natural wide forwards instead of Mason Mount. So I think that he's going to have to fight for his place. However, if in this current configuration, if we are having a season that's just as good as the one we had, which is of course what should be our target next season, then you can expect us to play around 60 games. And in 60 games a season, Mason Mount has actually the potential to start around, you know, 25 or 30 games in this kind of position right here. You can start him in the FA Cup final, in the FA Cup and in the League Cup, as well as the Champions League. You know, let's say you're playing at Anfield on a Sunday and you're playing Wednesday against Lazio at Old Trafford. Then you don't really need to start Bruno Fernandes against Lazio. Just start Mason Mount in that number 10 position. And then Mason Mount could also replace Christian Eriksen in this role with Bruno playing at a number 10. And of course, as I've shown in the video, he can also play in the Rashford role if you want more directness rather than someone like Sancho, or if, for example, Kane sustains an injury. So basically, Mason Mount can play all across the front line, okay? However, it's actually in the second configuration where Mason Mount's value can actually start to shine. Now, some of you may have picked up on the way Erik Ten Hag likes to set up his team. So Erik Ten Hag next season might actually move ahead with playing just one defensive midfielder. The reason you spend a lot of money on someone like Casemiro is because he's good enough to just handle it himself. And Erik Ten Hag likes to use inverted wing backs. So for example, he's done it with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Shaw, Dalot. All of them have been used in that capacity. So basically what he likes to do is basically build up the play with 4 players, and then with the other players, all of them push in further upfield, right? In a shape that is similar to this one, maybe even have Luke Shaw over here. So basically you have a diamond of the 2 center backs and 1 fullback with Casemiro, and then all of the other players, they push forward. We've seen it at play, for example, against Everton, when we just pinned them down. And this kind of system suits Mount much better because he's not really a deep line playmaker type of player, but this kind of system allows us to effectively play with 2 number 10s. And so in this capacity, Mason Mount can be devastating. Look at this front line. With Rashford, Mount, Kane, Bruno, and Anthony, it's so OP. And the other thing is that even in a defensive phase, let's say if you're playing against tougher opponents and you have to, regroup and get back and kind of clog spaces, well, then you can shift into a 4-1-4-1 kind of shape like this, like two banks of four with Casemiro in between and Kane pressing from the front foot, and then Mount and Bruno, because as we've seen in the statistical analysis, both of them have quite high tackles in the attacking third. Then they can, both of them actually, through their industry and their hard work, they can help you clog up spaces, they can help hassle the opposition, they can even mark key players from the opposition and disrupt the way they play. And then when we get the ball, then we are able to counterattack with a lot of quality. Now, the third configuration, of course, is the fact that Erik Ten Hag has shown this season that whenever he plays against tough opposition, we've seen it against Barcelona, we've seen it against Manchester City away, he actually likes to sacrifice one winger, in this case Anthony, in order for him to include Fred in the lineup without really benching one of his three midfielders. And so basically what that gives us is that it gives us kind of a lopsided, awkward looking kind of diamond, with Rashford cutting in from the left hand side, Kane performing the Anthony Martial role over here, and then Bruno and Mount playing as those, advanced, hard-working number 10s, right? And what this does is that by having players playing centrally mainly and sacrificing that winger, you make sure to have players that are close to each other. It allows you to keep possession much more efficiently, and also it allows you to press as a wolf pack. And so in these kind of setups, you can actually constrict the kind of space that brilliant players like Frankie de Jong or Bruno Fernandes or Gundogan can exploit. This is why Erik Ten Hag has been using this setup. And Mount can be lethal in this setup because, as we've seen, he can play centrally. And of course, with his hard work, he can contribute defensively as well. But then once we get the ball, he can move a little wider. As we've seen in the footage, he can actually exploit these half spaces area. He can also put in good crosses. He can cut inside on his right foot and score goals like the one he did against Real Madrid. So he's a great candidate to start centrally and then move wider when we get the ball. And that way, him and Bruno can actually, alongside Fred and Casemiro, create like a box in the midfield, and then Rashford can actually cut inside from the left, with Kane, of course, dropping deep and helping us keep the ball. And of course, in this kind of shape, if the ball is on the left-hand side with the opposition, then we can just slide towards the left like this, closer, right? And then the opposite is true. Once the ball goes towards the right, then again, Rashford leads the press in that way, and then we move, slide in towards that side as a unit, of course. And so every time with Bruno and Mount, we always have two highly talented players who are also hardworking and close to the action at all times. And then once we get the ball, Bruno with his Hollywood passes and Mount with his ability to carry the ball and dribble and create chances and shoot in the final third, then both of them can actually be quite a lethal pair in this kind of configuration. So pretty much if we sign Mount, he is going to play a lot of games for us next season and his impact is going to be huge. So, ladies and gentlemen, are you excited about the Mason Mount potential transfer to Manchester United? Why are you excited? Why are you not so excited? Please leave a comment in the comment section below, and cheers.